In a Mediterranean city made of white lime, a blue sea, and a sun that knows no modesty, Meursault lived on the margins, not at the center of anything. A simple employee in a simple office, he sat every morning behind a table that resembled him, clean, empty, retaining from the day only what papers imposed on it. In the evening, he returned to his modest apartment, a bed, a table, a balcony overlooking a street that bathes in light and then dries of meaning. He did not think there was anything in his life worth telling. He passed through it as a pen passed a monotonous line over cheap paper. Then came the telegram, a small slip of paper, a concise sentence: "Mother deceased. Burial tomorrow. Accept our condolences." He read it once, then read it again, not because he was stunned, but because the mechanical stamp had condensed an entire mother's life into a single line. Nothing stirred in his chest enough to be called grief. He felt a vague heaviness in his head, then moved with a practical motion, to request leave, to take the bus, to go to the nursing home where his mother had ended long ago, before she officially died, when he had placed her there. When he went to the manager and informed him of the news, he said it simply: "My mother died. I need 2 days." The manager looked at his face as if waiting for his eyes to confirm the news with tears. He found only tired features, nodded, and signed the leave. Meursault went out into the same street, the same light, the same sidewalks, but in his pocket was a paper saying that an old tree had fallen somewhere else in his life. On the bus to the nursing home, he did not review childhood nor revisit memories of the old kitchen or his mother's clothes as she washed dishes. All he felt was stifling air, sharp light on the glass, and a bend in his neck that had hurt since he placed her in the home. 2 years earlier, he had felt that what was between them had indeed been cut. What remained were merely intermittent visits and shy dialogue with a woman he no longer knew whether she was a mother or another resident in a social institution. Death now seemed to him a formal completion of a previous, unannounced death. In the hall where the coffin lay, the director offered to open it so he could see his mother's face one last time. He refused. He could not bear the idea of fixing in his memory an image of a face from which life had been removed, leaving on it the stamp of a trainee employee in the mortuary. He sat beside the closed box at a table near which there was a cup of coffee with milk and a pack of cigarettes. He lit one and watched the smoke rise to a low ceiling. He did not feel he was standing on the edge of an abyss, but rather in a long waiting room where the train schedule is not announced. As night fell, some elderly residents arrived. They sat in a silence perforated by intermittent coughing and unserious sighs. They were more familiar with death than with Meursault, dealing with it like an old neighbor who never stops visiting. The night stretched on, and the benches grew rough beneath bodies. From within him, there did not erupt that volcano people describe when they lose a mother. All he felt was eye fatigue and bodily heaviness. At the funeral, he walked behind the coffin with the director and a group of elderly residents and employees. The sun was a continuous slap on the nape. The road was long, the dirt was fine and clung to shoes. The priest recited words he had memorized long ago, words that did not distinguish his mother from hundreds of others. He listened, but his awareness was focused on the pain in his shoulders from walking and on the sweat seeping under his shirt collar. When the body was lowered into the pit, he felt that nothing in the external world had changed. One narrow room replaced another narrow room, and the planet kept turning. That same evening, he returned to the city. He did not feel obliged to change his life. He did not write new vows to himself. He did not decide to start from zero the next morning. He woke to the same light, drank his coffee, and found that his body demanded one thing: to touch seawater. He went to the beach. There, at the edge of the city where the smell of salt mixes with children's screams, he saw Marie, a girl who had once worked with him and then disappeared into the office crowd. Her body gleamed with water. Her quick laughter called something inside him that he had no name for. They talked a little, then she went down into the sea. He followed her playfully in the waves like two children with no history, diving and surfacing and laughing. On the sand, he threw his body beside hers. The sun dried the salt, and time slowed. His mother's corpse did not intrude on this scene. He heard no voice in his head blaming him. He did not feel the sea violated the sanctity of mourning. The world before him was a simple sequence: night, coffin, day, sea. In the evening, they watched a comedy film, laughed with the audience, then she returned with him to his apartment, slept in his bed, and he slept beside her as one sleeps beside a warmth one does not know. All of this, on society's scale, was ready-made material for accusation, but on Meursault's scale, it was simply what happened. Days later, Marie asked him if he loved her. He paused, searched inside for exceptional warmth, and found only a calm inclination toward her presence. He told her he did not know, perhaps not, but that he was willing to marry if she wished. He did not want to hurt her, nor was he ready to fabricate a feeling he had not experienced. Life with truth, however pale, seemed to him less burdensome than a life adorned with big words. In the building where he lived, there were other lives orbiting in small trajectories. An old neighbor dragging a sick dog and cursing it, then crying if it got lost. And a man named Raymond, with a rough tone and silvered features closer to the edge of temperament than its center. He introduced himself as a trader, but everything about him resembled merchants of pain, using people and leaving behind nothing but scratches. Raymond needed a friend to testify for him, not to ease his loneliness. He had a relationship with an Arab woman whom he exploited, suspected, and beat, then finally decided to discipline. He asked Meursault to write a letter in her name, a trap letter to bring her back so he could break her further. Meursault found no strong reason to refuse and no inner enthusiasm to support it. He wrote the letter as one performs a mechanical task that does not directly concern one's conscience. That calm indifference was the first thread tying him to a crime he had not conceived. What followed obeyed the law of moral gravity. Violence attracts violence. The woman came, Raymond beat her brutally. Neighbors intervened. The police arrived. Raymond needed a witness to exonerate him, and Meursault was there, recounting events as his friend wanted them, not as a neutral eye might see them. Raymond got a light sentence, but the shadow of this story extended in the form of Arab men watching him in the street, led by the woman's brother. When a friend of Raymond invited them to a summer house on the beach, it seemed like a break in this tension. Meursault went with Marie and with Raymond to a simple hut near the sea. Light food, wine, scattered laughter. But the shadows followed them. From afar, Meursault saw two Arab men walking on the beach, watching them, stopping, then continuing. The first clash happened on the sand, shouting, punches, knives, a wound in Raymond's arm. The host intervened. They separated. A little blood was spilled, and the hatred remained as it was. When they returned to the hut, nothing had ended. The scene had merely paused at a tense interval. After lunch, at the height of noon when the sun becomes a roof of fire, Marie suggested swimming, but Meursault felt a vague heaviness in his body and chose to walk alone on the beach. The sand burned the soles. The air was hot and dense. White light blazed on rocks, water, and skin. He moved in a world from which shadows had been removed. He reached a spring emerging between rocks, and there he saw the same Arab lying down, the knife beside him catching shards of light. In Meursault's pocket was Raymond's revolver, which he had taken from him moments earlier under the pretext of protecting him from himself. Now the metallic weight became part of his body. He stepped closer. The sun slapped his forehead. Sweat ran into his eyes. The world melted into a single glare. The Arab's hand moved toward the knife. The blade rose slightly, reflecting the light like a stab of fire. In that moment, there was no discourse about honor, no inner dialogue about self-defense. There was a body in pain from heat, unbearable light, a weapon in the hand, and a short distance between finger and trigger. He pressed. The first billet burst through the air, then the body, and the man fell. The story could have stopped there, at a single shot, which could theoretically be defended in any court. But Meursault stepped forward 2 steps, as if approaching something that had shattered inside him rather than an opponent on the ground, and fired 4 more bullets into a body that no longer had the right to respond. The echo of the shots reverberated among the rocks, then everything returned to a silence heavier than any explanation. From that moment, Meursault was no longer the owner of his story. The institution took him: police, investigator, judge, prison. In the investigation, the greatest effort was devoted to extracting a suitable motive: jealousy, rage. But the man before them did not carry this language inside him. He recounted what happened as if describing an accident: bad weather, heat, glare, weapon, movement, bullet. For them, this was not a reason, but a scandal, to commit murder in a vacuum of meaning. The judge wanted to turn the matter into an ideological confrontation. He raised a cross before him and asked about his faith, about God, about the afterlife. He found in the accused's features no fear of any hell nor desire for any paradise. Meursault said calmly, in a way that angered believers, that he did not think much about these matters and that they did not really mean anything. In the judge's eyes, at that moment, he transformed from a killer into an enemy of God, a title heavier than all the beach's bullets. The lawyer appointed to defend him understood the game better. He was not seeking truth, but a narrative marketable to the jury. He began not with the beach, but with the nursing home. He asked Meursault about his mother, about why he placed her there, about his behavior at the funeral, about coffee with milk, about cigarettes by the coffin, about refusing to open the casket, about going to the sea the next day, about the comedy film, and about Marie's night in the bed. He told him with painful frankness that the court would not forgive these details, and that if he wanted to survive, he must allow him to reshape his story, to appear sad, devastated, unbalanced by loss, so that the killing would become the result of blind grief rather than a cold act. Meursault could not promise him what he wanted. He had never learned how to manufacture a feeling on demand. Before the law, this was a fatal flaw. In the courtroom, he discovered that the real crime was not on the beach, but in the nursing home and the cinema. The director was called to testify. He spoke at length about the coldness of the dead woman's son, about his refusal to see the body, about coffee, cigarettes, silence. The nurse testified that he did not seem sad and shed no tears. Neighbors spoke about his withdrawn life, his solitude, his not attending church, not participating in joys or sorrows. When Marie came, she wanted to defend him, but the prosecutor drew the opposite from her. She spoke of the sea after the funeral, the funny film, sleeping with him. Her love turned into evidence of guilt. Here, the court was not seeking what he did, but what kind of human being he was. The prosecutor presented Meursault as a moral monster, a man who does not cry at the appropriate time, laughs at the wrong moment, does not say he is remorseful when expected, and does not hide behind the name of God when doors close. The lawyer tried to color these traits differently: honesty, simplicity, inability to perform. But society, when seated as a jury, does not like those who reflect its bare face back to it. In his final speech, the prosecutor demanded his head, not because he killed an unnamed man, but because he did not respect the rules of humanity. He linked the bullet to the cinema smile, the Arab's blood to the sweat on shoulders at the funeral, the beach to the coffin, his denial of faith, and his silence before the judge. It was clear that the verdict had been drafted before the accused entered the hall. The sentence was pronounced: death by guillotine. Meursault returned to his cell carrying one heavy sentence: they will cut off my head. Life was no longer an open road, but a corridor ending at wood and iron. He began to measure time not by years or months, but by the number of mornings he would be allowed to see dawn, by the dwindling chances to challenge the verdict, and by the slim possibilities of a procedural error saving him from the blade. At night, he recalled small details, the feel of the sheet on his skin, the sound of the sea from afar, Marie's laughter, the smell of the nursing home, the eyes watching him in court. He did not search for a single meaning to bind them, but accepted that they were fragments of a life that would not repeat, and that their value lay not in what they could have been, but in what they actually were. The chaplain came to the cell carrying another language, the language of salvation. He sat before him and spoke of God, mercy, repentance, that the door was still open. He wanted to enroll him in a greater story, to transform the atheist killer at the last moment into a returnee to the bosom of faith, so that his death itself would become proof of the triumph of doctrine. At first, Meursault answered with polite coldness, saying he felt no need for this story and saw no religious guilt in himself requiring purification. But the chaplain persisted, again and again, waving fear of hell and hope of paradise, as if human existence meant nothing unless used as an argument in heaven's battle. In the last visit, the anger that had not emerged in court exploded. Meursault shouted in his face, not to blaspheme, but to defend his right to face death without a new mask. He told him that the world had not stopped when his mother died, and would not change when his head was cut off, and that the silence surrounding the universe would not be filled with heavenly music because one man decided to declare his faith minutes before his end. When the walls quieted, he felt, despite the harshness, a kind of clarity. He had finally accepted the truth that had pursued him in all scenes, that existence carries no guarantee of meaning, and that humans, to endure this void, surround themselves with stories. He refused to adopt a story that was not his. That night he remembered the sun on the sea, Marie's body, the cigarette smoke above the coffin, the smell of bread from the neighborhood bakery, the heat of stone on the beach, the cold of handcuffs on his wrists, the faces of jurors, the sound of the verdict, and the chaplain's shout. He saw all of it as if it were a single film without external commentary. In the morning to come, the guard would open the door, lead him to the yard, he would stand between wood and iron, and they would drop his head into a basket. Some would shout, others would keep silent. The city would continue its noise, the sea its breathing, the sun its dominance. At that moment, Meursault would not be there to explain to anyone what he felt. But the story his life leaves behind is not only the story of a killer, but the story of a human condemned because he did not master emotional obedience to the laws of the herd. Thus, in a tragic retelling, The Stranger appears not merely as a novel about crime and punishment, but about a collision between cold honesty and a group that cannot bear to see itself without makeup. Meursault's greatest mistake was not that he pulled the trigger, but that he refused to fill the space between life and death with a comforting lie. Therefore, his head is offered to the guillotine not only as the head of a killer, but as the head of a stranger who refused to play his role in the play, so the play decided to continue without him. The stranger in this tragic narrative is not merely the story of a killer led by a bullet to the guillotine, but a cold dissection of the collision of a being stripped of masks with a massive psychological and social apparatus that cannot tolerate nakedness. Meursault is neither an existential hero in the romantic sense, nor a devil as the prosecution wanted, but a clinical case of a man in whom the connection linking the inner world to its external performances has been severed. He cannot cry when asked, nor can he fabricate emotional warmth to satisfy the collective superego. In the language of psychology, he is a self that has lost the skill of managing impressions and refused to participate in producing the image others find comforting. He does not adopt the shared lie that grants the group its illusory balance, so his body becomes a field upon which the institution unloads its anxiety about truth. Society here functions as a grand defense mechanism, projecting onto him its moral fragility, turning his indifference into savagery and his cold honesty into an existential danger that must be eliminated. The court, from a psychological perspective, is not a pursuit of objective justice, but a collective ritual to stabilize a reassuring narrative about the self. We are good, we feel as we should, we believe as we must. Whoever departs from this mold is offered as a sacrifice for our inner peace. Against all this stands Meursault as the foreign body exposing the game, an individual who states without adornment what he feels, placing his finger on the deep split between what we live and what we claim to show. Thus, he is condemned in the end not only by the penal code, but by a deeper law, the law of collective identity that cannot tolerate a clear mirror. From this angle, the stranger becomes a philosophical, psychological study of the price of honesty in a world that functions only through agreed-upon lies, and of the way justice, religion, and public opinion conspire to preserve a false stability, even if it requires cutting off the head of one who reminds them that this stability itself is built on sand. And from here, O tragedians, The Stranger is no longer merely a novel about a lonely man led to the guillotine, but a mirror tilted slightly toward us as well, toward us who build our psychological balance on ready-made rituals, a tear at the right time, a smile in its place, a word of faith when needed. Whenever someone appears among us who does not master this language, we feel that the whole building, that structure erected from our notions of the normal, the good, the faithful, is nothing but a fragile frame built on sand. This episode, A Tragedy, is not a literary luxury nor a school summary, but a kind of quiet interrogation of your own conscience, an attempt to open the skull of this small world we call human and see what hides between layers of honesty and justification, between what we truly feel and what we allow ourselves to show others. Listen to the story as if you were sitting in a confessional without a priest, face to face with the most embarrassing question: do you live as you are, or as they want you to see you? When the last sentence of this episode fades, it does not matter whether you stood with Meursault or against him. What matters is that you have overheard your own voice trembling beneath the question: how many lies do you need to remain normal in the eyes of the world? And how much truth can you afford without the building you constructed around yourself, stone upon stone, collapsing? And we will meet after this port in a coming episode with a summary of another novel, rewoven in our language, not to spare you reading it, but to open, in it and with it, a new door onto that long shadow bearing a single name that does not change: human.